This is the Blackboard that we're used to. This is a Blackboard Ultra that we're going to move all of this content into. Now you notice over here that how we present the information here in Blackboard is different to how we're going to present it here. We're going to get the same features and functionalities, but it's done a little differently. And that's what the purpose of this video is to take you from this and make you comfortable in presenting the same material in the Blackboard Ultra format. When you first open up Blackboard Ultra into one of your course sections, what you're going to see is these things here that were put in by Seneca College. And right now this is visible to students, which are Blackboard Ultra resources that they may be interested in, Seneca student resources, and there's some things here that are hidden from the students. Now, what I would suggest until you decide whether you want this to show up for the students is to actually go here and hide it from the students for now so that you can concentrate on the material that you really want to bring in, and then it's up to you whether or not you're going to make this available to the students at some point. Because when you click on Student Preview, this is what they're going to see. And when you start loading content in, all they're going to see is your content here. As you're working in Blackboard Ultra, you have to make sure that you know which mode you're in. Right now we're in Student Preview mode. And to make changes, we're going to have to exit back out of here and discard. In the past, we actually used packages and utilities and used that to copy. This is not what we do this time. What we do is we hit the plus sign here and we say copy content. And then we have to know where our content is coming from. We can see that this happens to be our EF section, and this is 2231. So that's what we have to look for here, and there it is there. So all we have to do is click on here and say start copy, and it's going to copy everything in. So let's just start the copy now. Sometimes you'll find that there are problems with the word oops, and you can view details. As it turns out, the problem has to do with levels of folders. If we look at video lectures here and go to week 1 video lectures, we can see that we have a number of things under here plus another folder. And the problem that you have with Blackboard Ultra is it cannot handle that number of levels of folders. So we go to video lectures here and go to week 1, we can see that we have all the stuff here, lab 1 and so forth, all the things down here. But when it gets to number conversions, you'll see that all the things that are in this directory here are actually put at this level. All of these were actually under this folder here, number conversions. And notice down here what we have is we have week 1 video lectures / number conversions. And if we open up this folder, we find that there's nothing in it. And so all we can do here is actually just say delete. Now if you scroll right down to the bottom, what you're going to find is a category called Undeployed tests. And if we click on this, what we're going to see is we have some undeployed tests. But what you're going to find is these, even though they are in this category here, you'll find that these actually exist already. So we look at week 5 practice quiz. Let's go up and take a look at practice quizzes, and we can see that it's there, and it's got banks and so forth. So that is a misnomer, so you're not going to have to worry about that. The stuff that's under undeployed tests, typically after you check them all out yourself, you should be able to delete that and get rid of that because that's just a duplication. Once you've copied everything in and verified that it actually is here, the next thing you may wish to do is put in some of your own links and so on to help you out. Things like important dates and deadlines, an updated course curriculum based on these deadlines and dates that are here, professor contact information, and so forth. Right now this is what the students are seeing because we're looking at the student preview, and this is all very nicely packaged and everything looks really cool. But when we go back here and take a look at what we have all this information that the college has actually given us, and we want to put that away somewhere and keep it, as we said, in case you might want to show it later. So the simplest thing to do is actually just to create a folder, and we can do that, and we're going to call this Seneca Original Stuff, and again we're going to hide it from students, and we're just going to say save. And when it's here, when we want to move all this stuff in, we can just basically click here to make sure the plus sign comes up and then just start pushing all this stuff into this folder just by sliding it up into here. And it doesn't matter particularly what order, and you can reorder it again later. But we want to put all this stuff in here. We can close this in and we can actually move it out of the way if we want. But now we have a view that's a lot closer to our student view. Now that we've moved things out of the way, we probably want to create some important links like important dates and deadlines. And once we take a look at that, we may want to adjust our addendum. And then we also probably want to add professor contact information. So let's start with the first one here. So if we click here, it shows all of the summer 2023 term dates and deadlines. And some of them more important ones here. When is the college closed? And you're going to find that the college is closed 3 times over the semester. But there's also other things in here as last day to drop courses and receive a DNC. So there's all sorts of information in here that students will really need. So I'm just going to delete this, and then I can, once it's deleted, I'm going to recreate it and show you how to actually get at this information, because it's not as simple as it would seem. First thing you're going to find is that most web pages for big institutions like Seneca College, it's very hard to navigate through the web page and find information you want. So one of the things you can do is use Google and say important dates and deadlines, Seneca College summer 2023. When you do, this will pop up, and you can right mouse click, copy link, and then you can go back here and hit the plus sign and say create link. You can type in here important dates and deadlines, make it available to the students because it's important for them, and then just paste in this link and say save. And once you save it, there it is, and it works exactly as it did when I first demonstrated it. So you probably want to update your addendum. My addendum has here times when we have quizzes, both in lab and theory, but you can see here that May 22nd, the college is closed. And you also find if we scroll down here on July 3rd, it's closed, and also further down here on August 7th, it's closed. So various things that you have here have to be rescheduled. So part of what you're going to have to do here is if your tests or evaluations fall within those 3 days, you're going to have to do what I've done here, is say that for this particular group, which is mine happens to be EF, that's the only Monday class I have, and I have to say, well, chapter 1 quiz is moved from here to here, and all these different changes have made because of the Seneca holidays. So that's very important information that you're going to have to provide for your students. Another useful link you can put in here is the institution page, because instead of getting out of the course, going to the institution page, and then coming back, having it here is great. Now what you can do is just go to the institution page, capture this link that's here, add it as a link in here. Now if we do that, we can hit institution page, and the important thing is it gives you access to the I3 portal. From here you can get access to all this information here under employee home, but you can also go to academic home here and get access to your course and see what sort of mode it's in. So if we click here, this is in flexible mode. If I go back to my schedule again here, go to one of my labs, you can see this is in-person mode. But one of the more important things you want to find out here is your timetable. And what we're going to do is use our timetable that we're going to generate here as part of our professor contact information. Now if you're using Chrome, you can go to Seneca Printer friendly page, and it's going to come up with a lot better version of your timetable than the one that you're going to be given as default here. And you can actually just go up here and do a screen capture of this information. And as I said, we can add that to our professor contact information. I'm going to take a look at it as students would view it and then show you how to create this. So when they go here, they see my picture, they see my name, and they see which room I'm in, and they have a couple things here. They can click the email, so if they click here, they can send me an email, and they also have my timetable here. Now they can either click on it, or I've set it up in such a way as you can click here and say download. So they have the ability to actually look and download my timetable based on how I've got it set up here. So let's see how I've set up the professor contact information, because this is something probably that you'll want to do, and it's pretty easy to do actually. To go about creating our professor contact page, we're going to just say plus, we're going to say create, and we're going to go over here to document, and we're going to put in here professor contact information as our title. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to upload from computer our picture. So wherever you happen to have your picture, mine happens to be here, I'm going to say open, and when it comes up, we want them to just view it only, and you might want to click here to say this text is decorative, and say save, and we'll see our picture coming up here. The next thing we want to do is add that description that we have, so we're going to say add content, and we're going to type in here your name and your room. Now once it's here, we can then change our text font size and so forth. I'm going to choose Times New Roman, and I'm going to choose font size and make that about 36, and I'm going to make it bold. And down here I can change this now. Again, let's make it Times New Roman, and instead of making it so big, I'm just going to make it 24, and again bold. And when we save, then it's saved that, and we've got this much ready to go. The next part is going to be a little bit of HTML, and it's very simple. Let's just add that in. And what we have here is left angle bracket A, H reference equals, then quote mail to colon, and then your actual email address. You're going to have to put a right bracket here, and whatever you want. I've got click to email here and backslash A inside the angle brackets here. And if I say save, what it's going to do is say click to email. And that's basically what we need, but we can also go back and edit it a little bit more. If we want, we can move this down a little bit, go up here and put in left bracket H1, which is going to make our text a lot bigger. So if we save that, we're going to see it this big, or we can make it just a little bit smaller if we want by adding, instead of H1, we add H2. So if we do that, we can see that it is a little bit smaller. Then the last thing we want to do is add in here our timetable. So I'm going to say again, upload from computer. And I'm going to bring up my timetable here. And what we want to do is allow them to view and download. And again, we're just going to click on this box. And there's the timetable. Now this is how we view it. And instead of hidden from students, we want to make it visible to students. And once we've got all this done, we can just get back out. Now right at the bottom here, I have a folder that I've created called Zoom Stuff. And if I open up the folder, I have two things in here. I've got Zoom set up. And if we want to take a look what that is, it's a link. And this link, HTTPS and so forth, is if we get out of this and see how it works, we can go to Zoom Setup, which is not available for the students, and click out here and actually sign in and deal with any of the Zoom resources and things that we want to do here. I've also got something called Zoom Recordings, because once the recording is done, what I do is I post it here, and this is one of the ones that I posted here from the students that did a project, and it's actually just the lecture where I gave how to get started on the project for the course. Now, the other thing you want to do though is you want to put in here, in the Zoom stuff here, the ability to launch a Zoom meeting. And how we do that is we view course and institutional tools here. We slide down to the bottom here, and we can click here to launch it. But if we want to launch it a lot, we can just hit plus sign here. It drops it down at the bottom, and then we can grab it and then slide it up into this area here, where basically all of the stuff that we want is in here. So we can go to our Zoom meeting. We can then do all the stuff, set up everything the way that we've done before, and it's all ready to pretty much go. The last thing that we really want to talk about is how do we set up tests and how do we make them available to the students, and that's what we're going to do next. What I have here is a number of different types of evaluations. Practice quizzes here are like drill and practice, and I let them do it as many times as they want until they get better at those kinds of questions, and then they can move on to later chapter quizzes where they only get to do it once with no backtracking, multiple versions of most questions, and in a random order. Same with tests and final exam. Let's take a look at their view of what goes on when they look at practice quizzes here, and then we can take a look at how you would set this stuff up. Now what I've done is we're now in student preview, so they can go to practice quizzes, and they can go to week 2 say, and pick up the second one here. Now the reason I'm picking this one is because there's only 2 questions, so that makes it easy to demonstrate how this works. Now what they're going to see is view assessment, and then they're going to go through the test. So one of the things that I don't like about this is that there's sort of a split thing here where once they choose something, they may choose to save and close or whatever when they don't realize that just down here there's a continue button. So when they continue, they can go on to the next question. Now at this point, they can actually say save and close. They can get out of here if they want because they have to go to another class or something, and then they can come back here again and continue on where they left off. So now they're on question 2. And let's just pick this as their answer. And since that's the end of the test, they can say submit. Do you want to continue? They can say yes, and then it submits, and then right away they get what their mark is. Now if they want to see where they went wrong, since it's got submission view turned on and question scores turned on and correct answers, they'll get all this feedback. So they can hit this and go over to this little document thing here, and it shows them what was right. There's their answer, there's the correct answer. Instructor can put in as much feedback as they want here if they want as part of that. And the second one, they got 1 out of 1 here. Everything was fine. So they can see that theirs was indeed the correct answer. Now because this is unlimited, they can do this as many times as they want. So if they get out of here, they can say, okay, it's been submitted. Let's go back. Let's go and start attempt number 2. So they can do this as many times they want because we've set it up to be unlimited, as you can see here. So every time they do a quiz or any evaluation, they have the name here. They have if there's an assessment due date, and that's typically for projects and things of that nature, but which we're not doing. We've set it up to be unlimited, and they can just get all the feedback they want as long as you have these turned on. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to exit, and I'm going to say save, so all this information will be available to me as as a teacher. Now, it's great to be able to see how the students look at it and how we visualize it as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the gradebook. And notice in the gradebook, the and or exclusive or is complete, so we can click on here and we can see all of our students right now. This is the preview user here, and I can click on here to see how that particular student did. And so this was incorrect. So all the same information that the student got back is exactly the information that I'm looking at here. Now this is great if you're doing practice quizzes, which are going to be drill and practice in, and you don't give any real marks for this, but they get immediate feedback as to what's going on. But for term tests and stuff, you don't want to have them get the same feedback. And so let's get out of here for a second. So we go back here and we go back to content. One of the things you probably want to do in chapter quizzes is to not have the same setup. Now what we have here under chapter quiz, I have 5 different chapter quizzes and visible to students, so they're going to be able to see this chapter heading, but they won't be able to see what's going on in here. Now some of the setup things, right now it's got hidden from students. We're going to change that in a minute. If you look back here and we say edit, right now we can say that if we click on test, we've got a number of options that we can do here. Now again, things such as due date is only for assignments and stuff that you're going to hand in, so that doesn't really apply to tests. But we're going to display one at a time, prohibit backtracking, randomize questions, and as long as you don't have none of the above, you can randomize the answers as well. Now as you go down through here, a number of attempts 1, I'm only going to let them have 1 attempt for any tests that are worth marks. I like to see them as percentages. Now when you go down here, what I've done, I can change this, and you can say click here if you want the students to get all that information, or you can click here to not let them see that, and you can save this. Submission view is hidden from the students. They can't get any feedback, and they can't get automated question feedback because you have to turn it on. Question scores they don't get, and correct answers they don't get. And then here you can set the time limit, which is 90 minutes. And that's pretty much it. So if we save that, then we know that our test is set up properly for that situation. Now right now it's set up to be 90 minutes, as we said, where they get no feedback. And right now it says hidden from students, but what you want to do is actually put in release conditions. And what you want to do is say set date and time, because you want to say this is the date the test starts, this is the same date and whatever the amount of time that you want from the beginning of the test to when it disappears, and you want to put it in here. For instance, right now is 7 o'clock roughly at night, so I'm going to say 7 o'clock, and I'm going to hide it after, and we're going to say 7:20. So that gives me the students 20 minutes to get started. Now it's giving us an error message here, but if I click up here, it goes away, and I can say save. Now another thing you should be aware of as well is that when you're setting up release conditions, you can already see that there's 90 minutes here, and you specify a date and time here of when it's going to open and close, but that's just the window of opportunity for the students to start. So again, if we do 7:10 now, and we again go to the same date here, which is the 7th, and go to say 7:30, something like this, that gives them 20 minutes to get started the test. That 20-minute window, but even though they have a 20-minute window to start, anytime in that 20-minute window that they do start, they still have 90 minutes to complete the test.